Just to briefly introduce myself, as Naomi mentioned, I'm Hilmar Lapp. I have been serving as the president for the board of the Open Bioinformatics Foundation since 2011. Just wanted to give you a brief overview of what the OBF is. And so or at least for a certain part here in the audience, there won't be anything new here. You will have seen this largely before. But one thing I always like to start with this with is asking the whole audience here to please raise your hand if this is your first BOSC ever. That's truly amazing, and I'm not sure we've ever had this full a room, so I'm very excited about this. This is really, truly awesome to see, and this is the reason, somewhere in the program we always have this talk scheduled so that those new to the conference can learn a little bit more about the organization that's behind it and that runs this every year, right? So just to let you know a little bit about what the OBF is, Open Bioinformatics Foundation, in short OBF, it's an umbrella organization for all the BioStar projects, and in fact, meanwhile, several others as well. We're a nonprofit, we're entirely volunteer run, and our mission is to promote the practice and philosophy of open science, in particular, open source software development and open data sharing across the life sciences. Generally, what do we do? Well, for one, we run this conference. This is our flagship event. We also run other events, specifically the OBF Code Fest that has for many years now preceded BOSC. And we also do a little bit of advocacy, and then we actually can take in donations and manage assets on behalf of our member projects. As I just said, we can, so we used to be our own incorporation with a sort of muddy tech status. Since several years, we're now a member project of the Software in the Public Interest organization, which is a fiscal sponsor. And so through them, we can take tax-exempt donations in the US, as well as, I think, most countries of Europe through their sister organization here. This is just an FYI, we try to be as open and transparent and sort of live the spirit of open source wherever possible. That's including for our own internal processes and for our own documents. There's a GitHub repo where you can see how our policies, bylaws, etc. develop, and in fact, you can contribute to them like you can to every other open source project, right, through the normal mechanisms. The OBF is governed by a board of directors. I'll show you in a moment who's on them. Several of them are here. In fact, I think almost all of them except two. And so the board is the governing body of the organization, right? It makes decisions about strategic direction, priorities, what do we run, where do we put our weight behind, and so on and so forth. And you can read more about it on the board. So here's who's on the board. Again, we're a volunteer-run organization. These are all volunteers, and so consider for yourself whether at some point, as you get more involved in the community, you might want to step up to this role as well, right? So there's myself serving as the president, Peter, who I think you've seen also, waving his hand here, who is the treasurer, and then there's Chris Fields, who can't be here as the secretary. Naomi, you've just seen here on the stage, and then Karen Cranston, who couldn't be here, and newly elected last year, Heather Winko, who is waving her hand here, and who's also the co-chair for this conference. Welcome to the board, Heather. We'd love to have you. So just a couple of news and updates. Some of you may know, this is just a quick wrap up that the OBF's main servers have been compromised last year. That process took a long time and a lot of work, but is largely over, moving application hosting to where we don't have to do the system administration and updates laboriously by hand anymore. In most project wikis, as probably those involved in our member project have noticed, are now all moved to GitHub, even though there's some residual issues with them. As I said before, one of the things that we do is we participate in this Google Summer of Code as a member, as a mentoring organization. We are, again, lucky enough to be participating in 2017. Our org admin is Kai Blin, and you'll hear more about our participation from him himself in a moment, so I won't take time away from him here. Our flagship program, aside from our flagship events, really has become the OBF Travel Fellowship Program. It's something we've long wanted to do, and that we finally made a commitment from our own assets, and then received a sizable donation as well from the National Evolutionary Synthesis Center through its own participation, or from funds from its own participation in the Google Summer of Code after Nescent ended. And so this is a program that tries to help people with barriers they're facing that can be remediated, or they can be alleviated through financial support when participating in community events, right? Whether these community events are conferences like this one, or maybe code sprints, or maybe other events, or even including training events, right? And so the main goal here is to increase diversity, right, in all respects, from career stage, demographics, and so on and so forth. We announced it last year. We ran our first 3 rounds last year, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. There are 3 rounds a year, April 15th, August 15th, and I think the third one's December 15th. And so, just to sum up, last year we made a total of 5 awards, and 3 of which only could be used in the end. 1 of which was for BOSC, 1 of which was for a code sprint, and 1 of which was for attending a training event. This year we've had our first round already, and which was actually exciting to see, received a lot of applications. So apparently people are starting to take note of the program, and hopefully it's going to get more popular, even if that, in the end, is going to be more work for us. But there are 2 recipients of the OBF Travel Award, hopefully here in this room. That's Jonathan Sobel from the Hackarium in Switzerland. He's raising his hand over there. Welcome to BOSC. And there's Jiwen Shin, I hope I'm pronouncing this at least halfway correctly, from the TSRI, who works on Biothings Explorer. Welcome to BOSC. So next deadline to apply is August 15th. If you have plans to attend an event in the bioinformatics and open source software, consider applying. So I'm concluding here. Ongoing activities is really for us to develop a more long-term vision for how we want to put priority and activities that allow us to continue to grow and diversify our community. And then specifically also, how can we sustain the OBF Travel Fellowship Program in the long term, and perhaps even start growing it. Connect with us, please. We have presence on the web. If you're new here, you may not know all these things, right? So as I said, we're on GitHub, we're on Twitter, there's our website as well. We have a news blog. And specifically, if you want to take a role in this organization, that participating in governing decisions, votes that come before the membership, considering, as Nomi already pointed out, to join us as a member. All right? There's a link there, right there on the web site that says join. If you click on it, you come up with that page. The membership application is all electronic meanwhile, and really the only criteria is that you agree with our principles. By attending BOSC, you've already essentially stated that you agree with our principles, and if you do not, then we need just a short statement as to how you're agreeing with our open source and open science principles. All right, thank you very much. Welcome to BOSC again. I hope you enjoyed the 2 days here. In fact, I'm pretty sure you will. And so with this, I'm going to, I think, turn it over to Kai.